All right. Well, we've got more than a quorum, so why don't we get started? And I mean, I don't think we're going to be on all night. This for me is all too familiar. I spend all day long on Zoom meetings, probably 6 hours every day. But we were using it at work anyway, and I thought I could use my account to start a meeting with you all, but I can't. It's it's a corporate account, and I guess that'd be personal usage of it, which makes sense. Company pays for it and everything. So thank you, Anthony and Chris, for setting up the logistics on your end and setting out the Zoom ID. When we have meetings going forward, or the invite, we have meetings going forward, I'll send the Zoom ID more just kind of in the subject line or at the top of the email, because I know iPhone was just digging for it a little bit, which is nobody's fault but my own, but sometimes it's helpful to have handy just to cut and paste that right into the Zoom app. And this is great. We're all connected, so hopefully everyone's kind of safe and settled into their crazy routine. Although, Jim, I've seen you out walking on the road, which is nice to see, as like with everyone else, seeing you out on Larch as we all get out. So anyway, I think that will.
Did he freeze?
Yeah, my screen froze.
That's a great face, Alex. All right, there we go.
No, he's still frozen for me.
I froze.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
I just start. Can you guys see my text on the right side of your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another way to communicate if needed.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. I've never used that, Carrie, and I'm not about to start.
Oh.
But thank you, though. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I upgraded my FiOS to something really fast, but who knows where it all happens. We ask a lot of Zoom. So I was just saying that if we can keep a standing weekly Wednesday, that way we can at least address topics as they come up. Obviously, we've got, uncharted territory with regard to everything happening socially, economically, health-wise, and its impact to on a municipal level, I think, is not yet fully understood, either in the near term, frankly, or longer term, medium long term. We were in a position where we had the FY21 budget ready to go, replete with override articles, and right to the point of getting ready to disseminate and educate the residents. And of course, this all struck. So where are we? What I'd like to do is, and by the way, if I didn't, Catherine, sorry if I didn't call the meeting to order officially, my bad. We're called to order and we've got quorum. So what I'd like to do is have a standing Wednesday, if that's okay with everybody. We can adjust the time as needed. I mean, there's no good time, even though we're all around generally our houses. So 6:30, 7, whatever it need be. We may have to bump a little bit because Jackie had indicated that other groups, I think it was the planning board that just Wednesday mornings is adjusted to the evenings now. That
it goes to Board of Health.
Board of Health has their
Board of Health.
standing, yeah.
So Anthony, can we not have 2 Zoom meetings at the same time?
We've only purchased enough for one. Like that was another additional if you wanted more hosts. So, but the Board of Health is not going to meet next Wednesday because they're going to meet Friday because we're going to try to do a forum for the public with the Board of Health and Public Safety, just to have a little Q&A session, and I think we're looking at Thursday for that. So next Wednesday should be fine.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. So we'll plan to stick with Wednesdays. So where are we? Do we need to change anything with the budget? I think the answer is we don't know just yet. Anthony and I had a conversation this afternoon. I've had a couple along the way. He's been keeping me up to speed on what's going on from the town side. Jack Wilhelm and I had a brief conversation the other day, and in advance of his meeting yesterday with the select board, let me know that he's got concerns about FY21, and whether or not a business as usual budget, so to speak, is still appropriate. So I think we are in really we're in tough a really tough fiscal situation regardless, and then we layer on top of it a really extreme and dramatic and I mean, unheard of situation, and not knowing what the impact will be to the town in full is, I think, going to pose some challenges. But we just want to open up a dialogue and discuss ideas that, frankly, we never would have thought we had to before, as to how it's going to play out in the town with regard to our FY21 budget, FY20 impact for that matter, and going forward. So I'd like to, Anthony, if you don't mind, I'd like to have you kind of just update everybody just with a quick recap of what's going on the town side. Obviously, you're in there every day. The doors are locked, but you've been working every day, as have Chris and Jack and others, kind of off and on, in and out of the building remotely and on-prem. Just kind of let us know where you're at from the town standpoint. We can share a couple of things that we talked about earlier as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
I'm having
Sure.
a problem with the sun in my face. Sorry.
No worries. It's nice and bright, Carrie. Nice spot.
Yeah, and if there's any questions, by all means, you can stop me along the way, wave your hand or something, or just speak out. So we, to in line with the governor's orders, we did close the building for the public back in mid-March. And we continued to have staff working here up to about 2 weeks ago, when the governor went a little bit stricter and went down to 10 people. I thought it didn't make sense to have all of our employees still working together in case that somebody did get sick. We have a pretty small quarters, and it would have been tragic if all 3 of our finance people went down and we still needed to process payroll. So had a continuity of operations plan before we did that, of which we, who did we just lose? Carrie?
Carrie, it would seem. I noticed Gary's not here either, but maybe he'll
No,
rejoin.
Gary's not, but Carrie cut out.
Right. Understood. Yep.
So you want me to just continue? I'll wait for her.
Yeah, keep going. I'll shoot her a text while you're talking.
Okay. So what we did is we put in, like I said, the plan. So we ended up getting laptops. We got the Zoom. We got remote desktop. We got Sprint mobile apps. So basically, what I wanted to have happen is, although that staff may not all be in the building at the same time, that town hall is functioning, and you really wouldn't know the difference, because when the phone rings, it gets picked up by staff on their mobile phone. They still get emails, and nothing really changes from the public's view, because they couldn't come in anyways. And so it worked. It worked well. The good thing about it is there was cost that was incurred, but we recovered $12,000 right off the bat from the bill that the governor immediately sent, which was $5 million towards Board of Health for dealing with this. So we submitted our reimbursement. So far we've been great, and this hasn't cost us any additional funds. Certainly, you look at FY20, I think that, Wenham is probably a little bit more fortunate than a Beverly or a Salem or a Peabody. Welcome back, Carrie. Or a Peabody. You're on mute. And a Peabody is in so much as that we don't rely upon, our local receipts don't have a big portion of that from meals tax or room occupancy tax, because as you all know, we haven't adopted that. And even if we did, it would still be a small amount of money. So local receipts wise, where permits are still happening, construction is still going on. So we haven't seen any effect as far as local receipts. Now, as far as state aid, we haven't received anything from the state as far as if they're going to reduce, if they're going to do anything for the rest of this year. And certainly we haven't heard anything about FY21. As far as what we know is our big main source of revenue is our property taxes. In a way, this hit at a good time, in that a lot of people, I'd say a good portion of our residents still have mortgages and have already accrued their property taxes, or a good portion of that. So I'm not, so we're gonna monitor our property tax collections, but I don't think that we'll see much of a difference. We may see some, as some folks are hurting, but that remains to be seen still. So it's something that we have to monitor.
And that's likely to play out longer term, right?
Right.
Like if you have workers who were laid off over weeks or months and can't recoup that and don't have a replacement income source immediately, plays out longer term. You hate to think of people losing houses anywhere. It's probably, to your point, less apt to happen in Wenham, but it'll happen everywhere across the country. And that would be a long-term right impact.
And what
presumably.
we did is, again, about a month ago, when we were trying to plan for everything, we started talking to our bonding agency, Hilltop Securities, about a revenue anticipation note. As we all know, that we have a cash flow problem at a good time. So certainly, if that did get slower, we needed to make sure that we still could pay our bills. So we started the process of at least being ready in the event that we needed to pull what's called a RAN, or a revenue anticipation note. And it's just what it is. It's a short-term note, and in waiting for revenues to come in. And normally, the bad time with that is that it has to be paid within the fiscal year that you borrow for it. So, of course, that can change, as all of these are problems not just for Wenham, they're for everybody. And the legislature's really, and the governor is changing things on the fly as they realize that we have issues. So I think we're okay in that situation. We're doing all our homework to be ready in the event that we need to, but right now, I don't think we need to, but we're monitoring that closely.
Anthony,
As far as that, go ahead, Mike.
what's the interest rate then? You still have to pay the note and the interest rate, correct?
Chris, do you remember what the rate was? It was.
I'm not sure what the rate was. I haven't actually seen anything on the revenue anticipation note, any rates or anything, if we did anything on that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So as far as FY21, again, in my opinion, Wenham we're almost built for coming through this in a way, because again, the same issue with local receipts, that we don't rely upon those other areas. State aid has not been determined, so we have no clue with that. So right now, what communities are doing, we can't hear the background noise, Carrie. So right now, what a lot of communities are doing is holding off on their capital, on FY21 capital, and then we'll revisit that at their fall town meetings. A lot of communities right now, at least what I'm seeing from our listserv, are not going back and changing budgets, although they're certainly looking at it and ready, and realize that, in the event that state aid becomes a problem and it gets reduced, then obviously that's going to have an effect. Good thing about state aid for us is we don't get a lot anyways. So, our net state aid is $250,000. So even if the governor said, we're going to cut state aid by 25%, which is, that's a high number. That's only $50,000 for us. So yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's not the end of the world money. Yeah.
I think you just answered the question I had from earlier when we started our meeting, but when you've been referring to state aid, you've been talking about the normal state aid that we typically get. were you making any reference at all to any kind of local government support coming from the state or federal government? Like any kind of
No.
bailout money?
As a result of this pandemic?
Yes.
No, we don't. There is out there that any cost that we are incurring, we will be going reimbursement from FEMA, because with the president declaring Massachusetts state of emergency as well, now we get 75% reimbursement through FEMA. We haven't had much cost. We are monitoring it. An example of that would be we had one of our police sergeants whose ex-wife was COVID positive, and the kids were with him. So we kept him out of work until he was symptomatic free for 7 days. It only affected one shift. So now we had to backfill that. So that shift now that we had a backfill, we keep in track of so we can get reimbursement from FEMA.
And so the FEMA money is related to direct expenditures or direct costs related to COVID-19, correct?
Yes.
And then is there anything in the bailout packages related to, reduced revenue, anything else? Or is it more indirect costs, or is it usually just FEMA direct costs?
It's just, from what I've seen, it's just the FEMA reimbursable direct cost. I haven't seen, hey, we're going to give you a check like they're doing for small businesses or interest-free loans, or haven't seen any of that yet.
Okay. Yeah, I've just seen I've seen like a sentence, support for local governments, but I didn't look into any detail as to what that means. So thanks.
That just allows us, I think what they're referencing is the ability for us to get reimbursement from the federal government for any additional costs that we incur because of the pandemic.
Okay.
So, so that's really, FY21. Now, one thing that communities have chosen in the beginning to, although staff were not at work and some were working at home and some just don't have the capability to work at home based on the function of their job, pretty much every community that I've seen has chosen to still pay staff. Mm-hmm. Although now the conversation is starting to come up with, all right, if this goes on for another month, we have to start having some conversations about whether continuing to pay staff is a reality, especially those staff that aren't working and are more non-essential. Although I think that local government is essential, there's certainly, you can make the argument that there's some departments that could be considered non-essential. And one that comes to mind is the library. The library is closed. You can't check out books at home, so at some point in time, I think that most communities are going to start discussing that. I've actually heard, the Salem mayor say that in a call that I was on with over the weekend with mayors and managers. So, and I think that certainly as it was expressed by Jack, as Alex opined in the beginning of this conference, this meeting, that would like to see something done with that. So they actually took a motion last night to task me with coming up with cuts for FY20. My concern always has been, at this point, it's very difficult to say you want to cut something when you don't recognize a loss yet. So in other words, I certainly couldn't say to the union employees, ask me or police, or not that we would, but, we're going to furlough you or we're going to lay you off, because without showing them that we have a need to do that, a financial need, the unions will chew us up and spit us out and we'll lose every time. So, but that doesn't mean that, police are obviously essential. So that, and we're monitoring it, and I'll have my lists of potential cuts to them probably in a couple weeks on areas where that could be cut, in my opinion. And then it would be up to them whether or not they want to pull the trigger and just make the cuts even without seeing the loss of a need to do that, or just because of the optics of, well, the business world is doing it, why aren't we doing it? And Wenham. Certainly, I'll make the argument all day that we're not a business, we're a government agency, and government is not the same as a business, but I'm sure people would debate that with me. Certainly for FY21, we have to keep an eye on that. We may have to make mid-year cuts. We're totally putting together that cut list that in the event that the override doesn't pass. Certainly, this pandemic is not helping that to pass. So we're putting that together. And one thing that, I'm happy to report that you all heard me talk about a 14.9% health insurance increase that Harvard gave us.
Mhm.
I wasn't taking that without seeing what other options are available. And I went to MIA, which is the Mass Municipal Association's subsidiary that handles insurance for municipalities. And I asked them to give us a quote and worked with them. And we were able to get a 7% increase over last year. And that's switching from what we have currently in Harvard to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So, obviously doing anybody, you're all been part of open enrollment. It can be cumbersome. It can be nerve wracking, and doing it during a pandemic and through Zoom is going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge we're going to take because that's real savings of $60,000 that can offset that $360 in the event that we don't get that override. So we're going full steam ahead. I met with the Public Employee Committee, which is representatives from each of the unions. They were okay with this because obviously 14.9% increase to us meant a 14.9% increase to them. So they're okay with that. I've also had discussions, which is really the first step with the unions about FY21 and saying, listen, guys, this doesn't happen. And, I may be looking at recommending layoffs. Another idea I have is if we forego the COLAs. Yes, Alex.
Sorry to cut you off, Anthony. So David Molitano texted me. He's in the waiting room, I think. Does he need to be let in? Or maybe that's it.
I got him. Sorry. It was he didn't have his name. He just had a number. I missed it. Sorry. He's
Got
in
it.
now.
Okay, thanks, Chris. David, you there? You're on mute. Assuming
You're
that's
on
you
mute,
that
David.
joined. Can you hear us, David?
There you go.
Yep,
You're
sorry
there.
about
That's
that.
you.
I thought it was a 6:30 start. I didn't look at that. Apologies.
No problemo. We just kind of kicked off, and Anthony's kind of recapping what he's been covering on the town side with the state as well.
All right,
So
great.
we're on-
Thank you.
We're
Are
on
you guys on
FY20.
Zoom or dialed in?
On the
Zoom.
Zoom app, we can see each other.
All right,
But you're
I'll do
fine.
that.
You want to do audio only, whatever you want to do.
All right, I'll go on the Zoom app then. Okay, sorry, I'll shut up now. Apologies to everyone.
No worries. Thanks. Thanks,
Um,
Anthony.
No worries. So the first step in impact bargaining is having an informal conversation with the unions, which I had about 2 weeks ago and brought up the bypassing the COLAs and also the merit for non-union staff. So that's a potential of $91,000 of savings. AFSCME was understood, and I think that I could get them to agree to impact bargain as zeros. Police, I'm not quite sure, but I told them, well, if it's not that, then I need the equivalent somewhere else in impact bargaining. So you guys can make the choice where that might be, but we're going to be looking for that savings from the police, which he understood. The next step is obviously I would send an official letter out to them, which I would be doing probably within the next 3 weeks to say that I'm requesting to impact bargain the event of override not passing. And this is all the part of the town's doing our due diligence in bargaining with unions. So I'll shut up because I've been on, here you are. I'll shut up because I've been talking. I'm happy to answer questions. And Dave, this is going to be recorded, so you could always pick up the beginning of this on YouTube at another point.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question.
Yep.
In a a normal year, in terms of tax receipts, do we have a percentage of folks that are, quote, delinquent? I mean, what's our percentage?
Uncollectible.
Yeah, well, uncollectible, or people late, or, what, do we collect like 98% of on-time tax, real estate tax revenues?
Chris?
Just an example.
Yeah, I know. Chris?
Yes, we are, historically, we collect usually around 98 to 99% of our real estate on a yearly basis.
Okay, so my guess was correct. And we have no way right now, as we meet, of anticipating or thinking about what that may change to. We haven't received any information from anybody. No one's called town hall and said, I got laid off. I got a $2,000 tax bill coming up. What, can you help me out? Have we had any of those kinds of communications?
The only call, people are aware of some of the relief that was offered as a local option as far as delaying the payment date of real estate taxes from May 1st to June 1st, waiving interest. Right now, in conversations with a couple of the selectmen offline, I think everybody realizes that we're really, because of our cash flow situation, not in a situation, if we don't have to delay that May 1st to June 1st, because we really rely upon that money. So nothing further has happened with that, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, and as of March 31st, we had pretty much collected the same amount of real estate revenue as in fiscal year 19. We're at 71.4% in 19, and we're at 72.4% this year. So we've actually collected a little bit more so far in real estate.
Okay.
And we,
last year.
and as you probably all know, we sent out your real estate bills out a little bit earlier. And the reason we did that, obviously, we were concerned about staff not being able to do that. And another thing that we were preparing for is it's things that are outside of our control. So we have our payments going to a lockbox at Century Bank. So lo and behold, Century Bank was hit with some COVID cases, and they had employees working from home. And all of a sudden, for 10 days, we saw zero money being deposited into our account. So right away, Sherry was our new treasurer, was on top of that. And we got on Century Bank, and they are now processing our payments. Obviously, we just don't, we need those to continue to be processed, or we'll take them back and do them ourselves and have everybody work on it. So that's not an issue, but those are things that you have to think about that are outside of our control, right, that impact us very much so. Any other questions?
Alex? Alex, can you hear me?
Alex, yeah, there you go.
Oh, Alex, you had a little, and Mike, you
Thanks
have
for that,
one now,
Anthony. So,
too.
I mean, I think your point, Beverly, you're even closer to home. I was just saying that. What's that? Was it glitchy? Was I frozen?
Yeah, you're a little bit lagging, Alex. And you're frozen right now.
Can you hear me?
Hear you now. Yep.
No?
Yeah. Can you hear us? Can anybody else hear him? I can hear him.
I
Okay.
can hear you guys. I think Alex.
Sorry. The mic indicates audio's received, and I can hear you. I'll talk now. Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Thumbs down? Nothing?
Yes.
Anthony can hear me. Okay.
Yep.
Jim, can you hear me?
Somebody
Jim?
want-
Yes, no? Okay.
I can,
All
I
right,
can hear you.
thanks. It's always hard to know, like, David, yours says connecting to audio right now. I don't know why.
I dialed in from
I
a
haven't seen that
phone.
before.
I dialed in from a
Okay.
phone,
Okay, thanks.
so I was
Conscious.
just using the Zoom to see
Um,
everyone's face, but
yeah.
I can just.
Okay.
I keep seeing, just FYI, I keep seeing little microphone
Gotcha.
symbols.
That's
with-
smart. No, you're right. I should have picked up on that because your phone is there as well. We'll settle in. And if
Jim,
Yeah,
I think the microphone symbols might be people muting and unmuting themselves.
with what?
oh, I see. Thank you.
Well, I'll do mine right now, real
It-
quick.
Is it?
Unmute.
Oh yeah. If you could. Yeah, if you use this, yep, yeah. If we're not getting any feed, just hit mute. I was just saying that. So Anthony, your point earlier about like if we were a Beverly or even closer to home in Hamilton, if we expected a lot of revenue and we're counting on it from restaurants, for example, or other kind of entertainment-based facilities, right, which obviously have been directly and immediately impacted and just shut down entirely, then we would see an immediate market hit to local receipts, whereas we don't expect that as much now. We don't know what the impact is going to be on the state side, state aid. We don't, right? That is yet to play out. We'll still budget for expected tax revenue based on the market value of Wenham, regardless of what happens, right?
Mhm.
The inability of somebody, unfortunately, to pay their mortgage for, this epidemic to the budget. But that doesn't mean that we buy this, of course, which they will. And then as to how it plays out is a little unclear. I think, to your point, one thing that we should be thinking about, and I don't, by the way, I'll just add, I wanted to regroup. I don't think we're going to solve necessarily any or all issues this evening, but to be thinking about for the coming weeks, what should we be considering? Should we do anything differently in FY20? And I think that Anthony, Chris, and the rest of Town Hall have it well covered in terms of all the immediate things that they needed to address to make sure that the town's still running as it should. And I mean, just, to echo the points that were made earlier about keeping the lights on and keeping operations going, I had a gas inspection rather that I needed, which I was able to get working with Jackie. She was remote at the time, still arranged for the inspector, vetted us for health and all that stuff. So it's all good. So that's definitely great to hear. But should we do anything differently in FY20 or kind of longer out on the horizon in FY21? Should we consider things like deferring of capital? To the extent we have it, it's obviously not a whole lot, but just something to think about. Hopefully we won't need any revenue anticipation notes because that means we can't, right? It's a short-term gap measure to where we're really in a cash crunch. But it's good you explored that. And then I guess funding of operations that could foreseeably change. One thing that Anthony and I talked about earlier, in addition to, I think it's prudent you took those steps thinking about, bargaining needs for potential lower salary costs associated with personnel on the union side should, especially the overrides, not pass. And by the way, I think we now all recognize that the overrides are less, perhaps no more likely to pass, right? Whether or not they're less likely to pass, who knows? But given the economic impact. But thinking about program funding for 21, those things that are directly impacted by the pandemic. I mean, I guess you've got like the library, for example, right? It's shut down. They're continuing operations to a degree, and personnel are still doing what they do, but it can't. The service can't, of course, be provided to the public in the way that one would expect. I mean, that goes without saying, right? It's directly related to the need to not gather in public and all that. Our recreational matters of all sorts, right? I think about like Pleasant Pond. Is that something that can open, will open, should open? Should we be funding it? Things along those lines. Would anyone buy a pass in the first place? So I'm just kind of throwing that out there to be thinking about what material impact there would be. And I don't have the answer to all these things, but let's just say, for example, there were changes to the library service funding or Pleasant Pond. How would that play out? What would the impact be? And if we needed to account for it when things get back to normal and adjust and get back to, you know, pre-COVID lifestyle where we have all these services, what would we do then? How would that work? So I just throw that out there just to be, just as a couple thoughts related to the budget and the current situation we're in for, you know, I'll open up if people have any reaction to that, or Anthony, if you want to chime in with other ideas.
Yeah, I have some thoughts and questions, and I will echo what Alex said. We don't know the answer now, but just kind of throwing things out there. What if? We have talked a little bit about people, town staff who aren't working as much, say, because HW Rec or the library, you know, different places are closed. Are there any employees that are paid employees that are working more hours, like COA, since there's so many elderly people that are maybe isolated? And is there any other employees that might be working more hours? And are they going to be compensated?
Other than on the call right now, guys?
No, I'm salary, so you get me for 40 or you get me for 400. A smile like Mike has on his face. That does it for me, Mike. Right there, that smile.
Do we have a sense? That's a good question. That was to like on an hourly impact that we would be, that some picking up for others who are not able to work, that would
for salaried employees as well as hourly employees. Oh, like I've seen, well, they might just be doing business as usual. I've seen a lot of DPW people around. You know, are the police putting in more hours? COA, I'm not sure. That's why I'm just curious how this is playing out day to day with shifting of workloads.
So good question, Carrie. The police are not working more hours right now. We have no issues. We have no, other than that one case, which we think is going to come off of quarantine or isolation, whatever they call it. The DPW right now is working in shifts. So we have half the crew that's working one week and half the crew that work the following week. The week that they're not, per se, I don't want to say working, they're still realize that they have to be available to respond in the event that something happened. We need to close roads or emergency digging up something. They're doing training. So what we did is we worked with our insurance carrier, Maya, who has a bunch of training online. And by them participating in the training, it actually gives us points towards lowering our premium. So that's what we have them doing when they're not working, the other half of the crew. And they should be in separate trucks. They should be wiping them down before the shift and then after the shift. And that goes the same for the police department and the fire department's doing that. And the COAs right now, we have them reaching out to all of our residents 60 and older to just touch base. Where some are saying thank you and some are saying, yeah, you don't have to call me anymore. Some have needs that they're trying to help them with, maybe some groceries. Dan's still doing some of those. Some medical appointments that they have to go to, we're still covering some of those. So I wouldn't say that they're working more right now. And some of the people that are making those calls is Wenham Connects. So they've been really helpful in that to help Jim out. So that's a COA.
But there's no full-time individuals who have shifted to part-time in terms of getting paid and all that. They're still all full-time.
They're all full-time right now. First of all, we don't have a lot, Mike, but yeah, everybody's full-time. There's only really 7 people in town hall that's full-time. And then you get your library staff and the DPW is union and police are obviously union. So the 7 here in town. It's, 3 down in finance that are challenging doing what they're doing. There's myself, there's Nikki, there's Jackie, 3, 4, 5. And then the other one's a union. And town clerk, we can't. Town clerk is town clerk. You can't reduce her hours. Only town meeting can cut her pay.
I have the kind of the same question related to programming as I did for staff and salary. Are there, for FY20 and maybe even for FY21, are there any areas where, say, the library, for example, at this point we're paying them full-time salary? I don't remember details about what their program budgeting is, but if they're closed, is there any rough idea now, say for the library or Hamilton, Wenham Rec, or other departments that are pretty much closed, that would have programming savings that would roll back into free cash?
So, yeah, so the answer on the rec, no, because remember, we're paying for their salaries and their expenses like lights and gas and so forth.
Mhm.
All of their other items are paid from the revenues.
Mhm.
So no, we won't see anything there. You may see some savings in utilities because the gym's not being used that night.
Mhm.
As far as the library, again, the same thing there. We might see some overhead reductions, but there's some, like she did have, besides her 9 full-time staff that she has there, she has part-time staff, pages and so forth. All the part-time staff, with the exception of 1, is now not getting paid. There just wasn't enough for her to justify.
Mhm.
And Kim did an outstanding job. I shared with Mike a couple of the reports that I included in the selectmen's packet the last couple of weeks. Kim did an outstanding job, really, for her staff that's at home to do training. So if you have an opportunity, Mike, if you want to share those with the rest of the group and save me an email, that'd be great. But Kim's done a great job to this point. But eventually, the longer it goes on, there's only so much training you can really do. So that's when we have to really start, reassessing things at that point.
Yeah, Anthony, as you come up with the list of essential and non-essential for 20,
Right.
I suspect that may roll into 21. Is there considerations around,
And I think
if folks are off payroll, do we keep folks up with health insurance or other benefits? Are there any of those kinds of discussions happening?
When I put together my list, Mike, those are things that I'm certainly taking into consideration. So, I may recommend to the selectmen, just for an example, you don't lay off all the library staff, but we reduce them to 20 hours. So therefore they could still have their benefits and they could still have their health insurance. I may recommend reducing everybody's hours by 4 hours. I may recommend all department heads take a pay cut. So I have ideas. I haven't quantified them with dollar amounts yet.
Yeah.
And to see the savings that we would get, but we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. I think,
Jim, I think that's a good question.
I raised the question only because, I think for the most part, if not close to 100%, we have good, competent, loyal employees. And so, how do we keep these folks continued, involved, attached to, if you will, the town of Wenham and be there when this at some point will end?
Yeah, it's a great point, Jim, because, that's why I was hesitant about recommending any cuts for FY20 because I didn't see the need yet. And by doing so, anything we do, it affects morale on one hand. But on the other hand, too, it's, you know, we have to think about, you know, we can't just continue to pay for all this services that we're not providing too. So, but we have to, you know, maintain that human element and, you know, not hurt somebody too much. And that's why, again, I just saying making them part-time and bringing them down to 20 hours or 30 hours or whatever that might number be, you know, and considering most of our non-union employees are in the library, keep in mind, that's only a third that we get to recognize of that savings. 2/3 is Hamilton. So,
Yeah, it is substantial though, as we talked about. It's $1 million a year, right?
it's $1 million a year for their budget. Yeah.
All in. So
in.
a third of that is ours. And I mean, I do think that we obviously want to mitigate the impact on the personal side, right? To one's personal financial situation. Hence not having furloughed anyone yet, I think, whereas the stock market crashed like it never has before. Every restaurant shut down and every restaurant employees laid off immediately. You know, there's no consideration given to whether or not, you know, I mean, I'm sure I'd bet money that people in Wenham have been laid off, right? Residents, you know, young or old, mixed combination. There's no doubt. I mean, and certainly will be. You know, the impact of that we're unsure of, but I think we have to. The timing is the big unknown, right? We don't know when we're gonna. I'm in my basement. I don't know when I'll come out of my basement for work, and we don't know when we're going to be able to resume those operations. So, to your point, Anthony, about you know what, it's definitely appropriate to consider. I think what types of services are continued to be funded at their normal level when things aren't normal, and then at what point are those funded at a level that isn't normal, that's reflective of the abnormal state that we're in. And I think those that are directly related to their ability to function, whereas, you know, on the town side, obviously you guys can go in, you can shut the place down, keep everybody safe. Library, you can't. Not to pick on library, but I would suggest that the public would argue, even those that are absolutely in favor of the services and directly benefit from it, personally benefit from the experiences that the library brings to the community, that in no way is it able to offer its services to the public at this point. That's likely unfair because I'm sure they're doing things they just don't know about. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's, you know, restaurants are offering takeout, so I'm sure there's some equivalent form. And you shared a couple of things like they're coming in to pick up books and stuff like that. But at some point we'll have to think about hitting the pause button on fully funding all of the programs that we had hoped to retain, and then to Jim's point, regrouping and getting everybody back to fully operational as soon as possible. I don't know if that's weeks, months, whatever. Probably more in the matter of months, right?
Right. And we still have to, you know, something still to consider.
So I guess timing is the big question. When and prioritization, to Carrie's earlier point, as you think about what are essential, what are non-essential, and some are subjective, quite frankly, because I'm sure. Go ahead.
So, you know, another thing that, you know, I haven't even mentioned.
You were saying?
Yeah, another thing that.
Anyone? I just hear silence.
It's a lag.
You're lagging a little bit, Alex. You there? Alex, can you hear me?
It's not me. I have incredibly fast internet. I'm on Zoom all day long. It can't possibly be me. It's you. Thanks.
It's town hall. I think it's town hall. Another thing.
No, you didn't lose me. I'm just going to cut the video. There's sorry. I'm on Zoom. I'm on Zoom for 6 hours a day. I never have one lag, but whatever. Okay.
There's the only other thing that we have to obviously keep in mind too is the schools, and you know if does Chapter 70 get affected by this, and that's just we don't know. So as much as I think that we may be in a better situation to weather the storm, I'm not quite sure our school system is. I don't know the impacts to them yet, but obviously their problems become your problems.
Anthony, regarding the schools, will you be, I suspect you will be. In fact, I think you might have said this at the
Yeah,
selectmen's
and I would
meeting,
hope, yeah.
that the schools are incurring some savings at the present time. Will we be getting a sense of what that is before the end of the fiscal year?
If they're incurring any type of savings, it's just the overhead of running the schools. Right now, they are paying all staff. They're paying all their transportation costs because that's what DESE has recommended to the schools and the school districts to continue to pay those bills. So because they just don't know if school's going to be back in session. So they're recommending that they try to renegotiate with, and I'll just use transportation, the buses, for instance. But that's something that they obviously have a lot to work on too. I don't know their financial impact of this. Hopefully at some point we will hear more about that.
Okay. I know the teachers are getting paid, and I know the teachers are working every day.
Right, they are.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's, I have no questions about that. It was just,
Right.
even if it's $30,000, it would help a little bit into 20, maybe rolling into 21.
Sure. Understood.
May I ask a next fiscal year question?
Sure.
If we,
Please.
and I'm basing it, you've heard this yesterday from the selectmen. So if our overrides didn't pass, we'd be in a shortfall. So we still don't have any answers in terms of those overrides didn't pass. What would we end up having to give up in terms of capital or something to that effect?
So we're working on those, Mike. We had another meeting today, our finance team. We did identify a bunch of what we would consider recommended cuts to the Board of Selectmen. We do have the 360 covered with a bunch of items. We're still working through that and trying to go a little bit deeper so that they have options, so that they're not just saying, well, here's 360,000, just vote yes and no. Maybe they don't, we give them some kind of a la carte menu of items that equate to 360,000. So we're still trying to identify and really look under every rock and see what we can cut.
Do you have a few examples if you wish to share?
Oh, well, I mentioned the health insurance. I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned the COLAs. That's 91,000 with the COLAs and the merits. There's, I don't know if I want to share. Other than those, I just don't want to affect any departments right now. I'd rather hold off until the selectmen have had an opportunity to get that list first.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Anthony, regarding the override,
Yes.
the questions, I watched the selectmen's meeting, the whole meeting this morning. I found the attorney's interpretation of how, if it passes, if it doesn't pass, if it passes at the ballot and doesn't pass at town meeting, passes at town meeting, doesn't pass. I mean, I followed it at the time. However, I wonder if we can ask her to put that whole process in writing.
Yeah, we
so
can.
it's really understood, because I think that's going to affect the timing of town meeting, if we can do it, and the timing of the ballot process. And the whole question is that I think everyone was getting to, if I understood it correctly, was we would all prefer, this is my interpretation, we would all prefer to have a town meeting to have the opportunity to discuss these overrides before it goes to ballot question. So is that where everyone was at the meeting? And
That, yeah, Jim, that was definitely discussed after the fact too. It's hearing her talk about that reminded me of, who's on first, what's on second.
oh yeah,
That was mentioned, and I think it would be good to have her put that in writing. There is also a chart that's on the DLS website that Catherine Harrison dug up and found, and I'm not quite sure that that's even clear too, but yeah, I'm going to ask her to really put that in writing.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and as far as the elections, and while we're on that in town meeting, so the Board of Selectmen is meeting jointly with the Hamilton Board of Selectmen on Monday. One of the items the first item on the agenda is annual town meeting in the elections. So right now, I recommended to the selectmen that we just do a save the date type of non-committal and vote on a date yet, because we just don't know. So right now that would be a June 20th town meeting and a June 25th election. So hopefully that we all agree that that's a save the date. Now, right now, the law that was enacted by the legislature because of the COVID-19 crisis, is that all municipal elections have to be done by June 30th. Now, we still may be in a situation where we're in this social distancing and we can't be in crowds greater than 10. It's something to think about, that this isn't going to be, we flick the lights and, okay, everybody back to work tomorrow. This is going to be gradually, we're going to get back to reality. So it's going to be 10, and then it's going to be everything that I'm hearing on all my conference calls. Then it's going to be groups 25, and then maybe 100. And then, I don't think you really can plan on going to a baseball game until later summer from what I'm hearing. So with that, we don't know if we can have a town meeting by the end of June. So there is a possibility where you could end up with having your election on June 25th and still not having a town meeting. Now, of course, we have options. From what I've heard on all my calls is that there could be more legislation to push out elections even further. That's not definite, but that's something that they're considering, because they know communities like ours do it that way. But right now we have to work on the existing law, and we have to have an election by June 30th.
If that were the case, I think I asked this before. Let's say we have the ballot questions in the election before town meeting. Is there any way, I remember Jackie saying, she didn't think we could do this, but to get information out to the community around the ballot questions? I'm anticipating people going into to vote and seeing these 4 or 5 ballot questions and being, many maybe not being aware of the issues or how these issues have unfolded and what are the implications. Is that possible to do, or is that?
Well, and that's what I kind of sent to Alex after, because I think that probably we should stop planning for some budget forums through Zoom and start the education process. The ballots are printed. So as far as saying, let's do a reset and go back and change the budget, the ballots have been printed. The questions are on the ballot. So I'm not quite sure that's because Diane's getting ready to send them out. So I think that's not going back and changing FY21 is really a possibility, other than recommending to town meeting that they not adopt the capital items, as I said, to start this.
Yeah.
So
I understand that. No, once those questions are on the ballot, I mean, that's pretty well set.
Yeah.
It's more just, if we have town meeting in July, for example, or August, but we'll have to have the ballot questions by June 20. What'd you say, June 25th or something like that?
June 25th.
Yeah. Is there any way to educate the community around the ballot questions, I guess? That's the basic question. Not on the ballot, not on the actual document, but some other way.
Think about it. The way that we were going to do that was going to be through FinCom doing the budget forums. You had one
Yeah.
And then we had a couple other ones scheduled that we had to
Right.
cancel. So
But I
right
don't-
now we have to live with this Zoom, and we
Yeah.
have to plan on doing them that way.
Yeah, I don't know how many people that'll reach, but it's an effort that we have to kind of try to make.
No. Well, yeah. Am I still delayed, or can you hear me okay?
You're
No, I
you're
got
okay
you
right
fine.
now.
You're fine, Alex.
This fucking thing. You can't hear me?
No, we heard you.
Carrie's mobile.
So, Jim, I agree with you. We're up. Good. We've got a tremendous challenge. No, this is huge delay. I can tell when you laugh. That's my way of
No,
making you
I'm
laugh. That's how I
laughing
know
'cause
how
I'm
long
gonna-
the freaking delay is. So,
I'm laughing because I'm gonna have to beep you out of on one of those.
yeah, or don't, either way. But Jim, we got a tremendous challenge. I'm on Zoom for 6 hours a day. I've never had one delay. So I don't know. Also, we're going to wrap soon because I'm getting called to have birthday cake for my daughter today. so I promise you my wanting to make this wrap up in relatively short order is for a good reason. But we're going to have to be creative, Jim, to your point about how will we help educate the public if we've got a summer town meeting in the midst of this pandemic that has everyone crazy to begin with, and a huge economic impact whereby they're faced with, big overrides that they haven't had the opportunity to assemble as a group, as our community and our residents are accustomed to doing, to learn about in town meeting, in that great forum, that great venue. And Zoom, to Anthony's point, is something we can go to at the same time. I'm with you. I don't know how many people are going to hop on Zoom, but we'll do our best. But if anyone has any other ideas as to how to get that message out to the community, and without an in-person public forum, I guess options are limited. But in writing, perhaps, is one way. Via old-fashioned snail mail, I suppose, slash electronic communications that are not live in person. That way you don't have to worry about bleeping me out. But in any event, I'll leave it at that. So please do be thinking about not only what you might want to take a close look at FY21 from a programmatic funding standpoint on a temporary basis, we hope, but also ways in which we can get the story out to the residents, because
And just
they're going to be hurt by this information wise. And that's the unfortunate reality. We're prepared to give them a budget.
And just a note, just to follow up on that, we're going to have, if I understand the timeframes correctly, a new superintendent starting July 1. Is that correct? I think
Yep.
we're going to have this difficult process on the school side of a new superintendent coming on board and trying to work, with this whole process from a very new point. But and the other side of this is, can the school system maybe, or the school committee, weigh in on some ideas as to maybe how to get out information?
Have they been meeting at all, the school committee? They have,
Yes.
Tony? Okay. I'll leave my question at that.
At any point, I know that we're going to cut, but if anybody has more questions and want to
Have
do.
they revised their FY21 budget?
No. I think we got the delay. If anybody else has any questions that you're not getting answered tonight, by all means, reach out to me. Happy to answer them on a one-on-one basis, so feel free.
Yeah, and if anyone does reach out, if you wouldn't mind CCing the rest of FinCom, that might make it more efficient for Anthony and also be useful to the rest of FinCom.
Just don't reply all and get into a conversation to violate open meeting laws. Even not everything's been lifted as far as open meeting laws. So we still have to be mindful of some of that. But yeah, we can certainly CC people, and then we just can't have a discussion.
Yep.
Alex quit on us, so who's the vice chair?
He's trying to log back in.
Oh, okay.
Just give him, he got mad about the delay.
Well, I tell you, I think because everybody's home, that it's just taking a toll on the broadband too.
I agree.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to mention too is just when we talked about trash, I know it's Dave's favorite topic, trash. Because people are home, trash has increased $1,500 a month. So although I am putting that on my FEMA reimbursement, they may tell me no, but it's certainly as a result of this of the stay-at-home order. So it's a cost I'm going to try to get back.
How much has it increased, Anthony? I missed it.
$1,500 we recognize the first month.
$1,500? Huh. How do they measure that? By the weight? By the tipping weight?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that may be happening
Dave,
is
you're on mute.
people are cleaning out their attics and their cellars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so liberal as far as you could throw anything away that this is now it hurts us because you get to throw one big item away a week and people home.
Any better?
Yep. You're better. Dave, you're on mute still.
I have kids screaming in the background.
It's not better.
So I'm trying to be wary of everyone's ears. It's bedtime, so thank you.
I don't think you can hear me, right? Not on time anyway. It's delayed.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Delay. No, it's a significant delay though. I'm gonna wrap. I got to go sing happy birthday to my daughter, guys.
Hey, Alex, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Sorry about the delay. I'll try and get it fixed next
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.